Today on Off the Hinges, relax, pour yourself a drink, and unwind from your week as I answer your questions and share stories about this week's trade. I'm joined by a special guest, and I have my whiskey in hand. I'm so glad you made it. Are you ready? Let's slide into the vault. Okay, welcome back inside the vault. If you hear a herd of elephants, or if we get interrupted, my good friend that you're about to meet, you can see him here, but he's Uncle Jens. He's like the German uncle to my girls, so they are very excited he's here. So hopefully we don't get bombarded by three little.
We'll manage.
If it happens, maybe we won't edit it out.
No.
But this guy, I've worked with him for 3+ years now, almost, right? So for a while. So I wouldn't call him my work wife because that's very emasculating to both of us. But maybe my work spouse or wife would say we probably spend maybe a little more time with each other than with our wives throughout a general day and hours.
Yeah, and when you combine it with the working hours we normally share during a time here in Norway, that's quite a huge amount, yeah.
And he's coming over to hang out with me at my house for this episode after we spent a full work day together. So we're getting our fill of each other today. Just for you. But as I take a sip, give a quick introduction, tell people who you are, and then we'll dive into some of these questions today.
Yeah, so Jens, born and raised in Germany for almost 47 years ago. Grown up on the eastern side of Germany, so also before the wall came down, so had a different times at that stage.
Yeah.
And at the age of 11, the wall came down and everything changed all of a sudden, which is a huge, impressive moment, and not only in history, but also in my family.
Yeah.
And then after high school, again, straight joined the military in the age of 18 and never stopped. So
and here you are.
Here I am after the many steps in my life.
That's almost what? Almost 29 years?
28 years. I'm in my 28th year of service now.
That's big time.
Yep. And beside of that, I'm very proudly and happily married. I have 2 little boys, which make our life exciting all day. I'm very interested in a lot of sports activities. Music has always been a big part of my life. And
hold on, I'm going to interrupt him there. So this guy, we'll get into the asking the typical question, what's your story? But I think you've been to more and better rock concerts in the U.S. than I've been to, possibly. You have an impressive track record. Let's pause here and say, what's maybe your top 5, if you could round it out to maybe your top 5 or top few favorite concerts you've been to anywhere?
Pearl Jam in Seattle, about 20 years ago. Eddie Vedder live together with my now wife in a very nice venue in Southern California, south of LA. Foo Fighters in Germany.
Ooh, good one.
AC/DC Munich Olympia Stadium. And not to forget one of my first big concerts, Metallica 1995.
Ooh, that's
in a very old setup.
The pre-2K dip there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
When they played that little what is it? If not an octagon. So kind of what they moved around all time. Yeah, it was impressive.
I'm already jealous.
Yeah. So and there were many more. But I would say these are the top
Those
ones.
are up there.
Yeah.
So Jens is very rock and roll, and he's been to some great concerts. So today we're diving into flexibility. And first of all, I'm glad you joined. Great colleague, great friend. I'll give the disclaimer up front. Of course, I'm in the Marine Corps. He's an active duty lieutenant colonel, infantry, paratroop officer in the German army. So nothing we say is endorsed by the U.S. Marine Corps, the German military, NATO, any defense or country or national or any of that. That's just 2 friends sharing our stories, sharing our opinions.
Right.
So there's your disclaimer up front. So it's Jens and Josh in the chat. But flexibility, because I went through, I said, if you'd like to join, what virtue would you like to look through? And he's very quick to say, ooh, that's a good one. And we've done a lot of things together. Maybe we'll get into some of that part of our story, but through working in different workshops and being to a lot of different headquarters across NATO, I'd say flexibility is definitely a strong point of yours, and can't wait for you to unpack that in your story. But also seeing maybe colleagues, organizations, people in general, and cultures in general that are inflexible, and the downfall of what that can look like. So I think it's a really important topic that might get overlooked a lot.
Correct.
And it's different. It's aligned to, but it's different than being resilient. Being flexible, it's similar, but it's a different word, and I think we should hold it separately.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll get into that. But I have my standard questions I ask everybody up front, then we'll get into some of them. So, first of all, I like to start with gratitude. So, what are you thankful for this week?
So this week is actually, I'm thankful that my little son, who's 10 months old now, started sleeping on his own, in his own room, in his own bed.
I'm thankful for you.
Which is a big step when you shared bedroom, bed and stuff for a longer period. And he managed very good to do that.
Okay.
And, so it's a big family step.
Yep.
And yeah, my wife and I are happy and proud of him. And yeah, so that is, I would say, the achievement of the week, at least in my private life.
Oh my gosh. That's fantastic. Well, I'm on the flip side. So I don't know if it gets better or worse, because now our 9-year-old, I can say this, Aria, I can say this out loud. You know this. We talked about it last night. She's going through this stage where she's sleepwalking, and not everybody does it, but she does it quite often now. Okay. And you'll hear her, and she'll either be talking. So I heard her last night, and quite the opposite. My 9-year-old kept me up almost all night because she was sleepwalking, walking through the hall. I heard her saying things. She got a little scared at one point. So I go into her room, and I had to wake her up, but her eyes were wide open, but she was sound asleep. And she's walking around her room. I said, "Hey, are you okay?" And then finally, when she started coming to a little bit, okay, I'm fine. Yeah. I said, "Okay, go to sleep." She goes, "Okay." And she started making her bed and putting her stuffies up on the pillow. I said, "No, don't get up. Yeah. It's not school time." And then she was so confused. Yeah. So I'm glad your son is sleeping. My 9-year-old is going the wrong direction.
I mean, it's he doesn't sleep all night long, completely straight through, but it's just also that he sleeps independently of us in his own room is already a step forward to independence. Yeah, and I think that's good. And how quick all these steps have been made through the past 10 months from just the delivery of the baby and now into crawl approach around the house, start hanging up on all the drawers and things like that. It's and you, because my elder son is they are almost 6 years in between, so you almost forgot about that period of time and what happened and how quick these steps are made.
Gladly forget about it. And then you're sorely reminded when you have another one. Yeah, of course. Yeah. All right. So what have you been learning lately?
I would say because I'm always try to improve my handyman skills. The first thing I did this year was I put my first roof up on a shed myself. Okay. Which I never did before.
All right.
Impressive. And I was quite uncertain if it works out well. And at the end, the result was at least more than satisfying. And it's completely sealed. So there's no drops of rain going through. I'm happy about that. Yeah. And what else have I learned is I learn almost every day something new as we are sharing work-wise a lot of our thoughts with good colleagues and through a huge community. Right. So it's not always the big steps you learn. It's the tiny little things which you might not remember in first instance when someone asks you, but it's that little step-by-step thing which makes also work life interesting and busy.
Yeah. And I have to say, first of all, I'll say thanks, a quick inject, because as you can tell, English isn't his native language. Not because he's speaks it poorly, but clearly a German accent. And you also speak Portuguese. Is that correct?
Yeah, I speak Portuguese. I lived there for about a year and joined a Portuguese higher staff course and had to learn Portuguese up front.
Right.
I'm a bit rusty at the moment, but still okay.
You can still claim it as a language.
Yeah.
But I mean, as a native English speaker, I can always appreciate and am humbled by people that can flip between multiple languages and then also agree to just speak in my native language. So thanks for that. I appreciate it. You're good at it, but we're not trying to do this in German, and that would be miserable. It would be great for you, and you wouldn't be able to understand me.
Yeah.
I might throw you a moyen or something, maybe. So is stepping out of learning. So I think learning opens the door for growth, but growth is a very deliberate thing. I think you have to find space for and focus on.
Yeah.
So for you, coming into a weekend, hopefully a season of catching our breath and resting a little bit before we move into the next cycle for work, how are you trying to grow or transform yourself, whether that's mentally, physically, however? What are you focused on?
So two things which help me quite a lot is, first of all, try to block out all work-related stuff for at least a period of time where I'm just with my family. Because once work things, unsolved issues, influences you throughout your period of rest and relaxation, you can't mentally relax and take a break from, even though that it might be very catchy what you did, or it's something where you're really engaged, but for a certain period of time you have to stop it. To just don't touch it, don't think about it, do something else. And the other thing is, when I have intense periods of working with different stuff on the horizon, I need, as you as well, I need physical training. So that also helps me to have a good run, go to the gym, do something like go roller skiing, enjoy something physical, just blow your mind free of any thoughts, have a good shower, and then you can go back relaxed. First of all, of course, to the family, but then also back to work at another stage. And the third thing I would say is just playing around with my sons. Because that is just, you forget about everything was important before, because they don't care what daddy brought back home from work or what's happening there. No, he just wants to play with the little ball, and my elder son just wants to play a card game or construct something. And so that.
I just had this talk with Laura maybe last night or the night before, because Karina is so interested in us reading to her. And all of the girls like to read together, but Aria likes to read on her own. Alessia has started reading in both English and in Norwegian, so she has a couple of simple books to where she can learn to read. But Karina, of course, she can't read yet. She's only 3, so she loves it when we read to her. And she'll come up sometimes if I'm in the middle of something and just look at me with her little eyes and hand me a book and say, "Daddy, can you read this to me?" And I told Laura, I said, I am trying to be very deliberate to never tell her no if she walks up, even if I'm in the middle of something that I find important, because it's just, that's her favorite time. And she took the time to walk up and say, like, "Ooh, will you do this with me?" So you're right, man. I value that about you a lot as a man too, because the family is above everything. So if your child wants to do something, come on. Like, that's what you make time for. That's important. And I will say, we've been on a lot of trips together in the past 3 years. And I'll give that as a tip of the hat to you. I think I said this when I introduced him maybe last week when I was introducing that we had this episode coming up, but I've traveled with a lot of people, and I actually haven't traveled maybe in almost my entire military career with another man where I can go to another city and be confident that, like, we can enjoy a nice bourbon together or something, or a beer, a nice meal. You're always going to prioritize fitness and working out and enjoying a nice relaxing dinner and drink together. But there's never any question about, like, are you loyal to your family? There's never anything weird.
No.
And that's not the case for a lot of people. It's not. So I appreciate that, like, you're a good man with character, and you're always talking to Julia and the boys, and same with me and Laura and the girls. And so it's easy to be with someone like that in a work professional manner, where you know it's trustworthy. The wives can trust us. I don't get put into weird situations because that's not who we are. So it's like, when you meet someone like that, that's really important. And it's not common. So
no, and it
truly isn't.
No, and specifically when you not in your 20s anymore, and you have decided on a certain way of life and how do you do things.
Right.
It's good to find someone, specifically if you have a lot of work-related travel, you can also enjoy some of your free time and share good thoughts, music, and drink a good dinner. And then just be ready for the next day. And,
right. It's really good.
Fine. Yeah.
It's really good. So sort of diving into our focus for this virtue of flexibility, how would you, I guess, simply try to define or frame it the way you think of this term flexibility? What would you say?
I would say it's the ability to adapt yourself personally, your own thoughts, or your way of doing business towards a situation which you haven't planned for, or you have to adapt to because the circumstances of that situation you can't control. And therefore, in order to be able to still do your job or to fulfill a task, to get something forward, you have to be flexible and adaptive, mentally, physically, that you still can continue on your way of doing business. It might not the way you've anticipated and planned for, but it's still good to go and you still can achieve your goals. Right. Maybe you have to go down a little bit from the 100% golden shiny solution to the 80% Pareto.
Right.
But it's still fine.
Right,
so, and you have to accept it in that way. Specifically, if you, as we do, work in a very multicultural environment with people from many different nations, with different backgrounds, different personalities, different social structures in their country where they originally come from. Or you're going into these countries and being exposed to the local population, and or you travel a lot, and what I did before. So that kind of, I would say, exposure to many different environments requires an amount of flexibility in order to get it through.
Yeah. When I was thinking about this in the episode I did to frame it up, the way I thought of it, like I guess the analogy or the picture I thought, because my dad did construction a lot. Yeah. And I was thinking of if you're not flexible, you're really rigid. So I thought of concrete. Yeah. And when you pour concrete, whether it's for a sidewalk, it might look really nice. You might put a nice coating on it. But if they don't cut in intentional joints for expansion, it'll crack. It'll destroy. So it might look really hard and rigid and strong, but it's its strongest when you can give it room to breathe, when it freezes and thaws. And I just think for me, that's a really simple analogy that, like, as a person, you can have strong characteristics and the characteristics of the concrete doesn't change, but there's intentional places where it knows it needs to breathe a little bit so that it doesn't destroy itself, or a structure or a bridge, an expansion bridge. A lot of things that are structures have engineers that have designed specific flexibility into that.
Exactly.
So it doesn't weaken it. It actually makes it durable. Yeah. And I love your response of, as a person individually, it's the way you think, because you might have a flexible team, but I think flexibility is a big leadership thing. It's an individual. It is the way you approach it. Yeah. Like flexibility starts with you. Yeah. Like, am I flexible to how I'm listening, communicating? I think it is almost an individual virtue before you start trying to apply it to a team. Yeah. And leadership has the biggest weight to carry, I think, with trying to remain flexible and model that. Just from my perspective, but yeah.
And specifically, you're talking about the leadership skill in combination with flexibility. Everyone, when situations changes to the way you haven't expected it, or you maybe have expected it a little bit, but then it really happens. The first, I would say, subordinates or other team members also have it is towards the leader, to the leader. How does he or she react on certain things? Exactly. So, and then when they see, oh, he or she is just adapting to it, and they say, okay, let's change the schedule. Let's continue tomorrow. Okay, we don't take this, we take that. Right. And everything is kind of still smooth, even though, and you openly also announce it towards everyone around. Okay, this was not the way as we planned it.
Mm-hmm.
We continue, but we do it a little different than it was actually thought through before.
Yeah. And it might seem ironic that you have a U.S. Marine infantry officer and a German infantry officer speaking about flexibility, because stereotypes might lead more to it's like, you're very rigid, you don't bend your rules at all. But I actually think, again, it doesn't have anything to do with weakening or lessening an appreciation for procedures or standards or rules or just high character. It actually reinforces it and makes it better.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't take away. Flexibility doesn't detract from the strength of a character or a procedure that you might think is really important. It just, it's adaptive. It's flexible. So I think, but it does. I thought about that. I was like, ooh, we're having a Marine and a German infantry guy talk about flexibility. They might laugh at us for this.
Yeah. And
but it's important.
It is. And I would say, you learn, the older you get, the more experience you get, the more you...
We hope.
We hope.
Yes, we hope.
The more you appreciate also that this is something which you always have to keep thrown. I would say I'm not a blueprint for flexibility when you look at me 20 years ago.
Please don't, no.
But I learned some lessons, hard lessons sometimes, that it is necessary to step away from certain things and show that this type of flexibility.
Yeah.
And both of our backgrounds, military-wise, actually have the need for a lot of flexibility because we go into uncertain situation, which you anticipated in a certain way before,
right?
But once you are ashore or landed on the ground, it's not at all as you would have pre-planned it before. So, and therefore that makes it, even though that we are generally sharing the same background infantry-wise,
right?
Makes the specific type of infantry, Marines and paratroopers, a little bit more flexible,
right?
Because we are actually dropped in certain situations by default, which are uncertain in any way, and the adaptability or flexibility is necessary to cope with it.
That's I actually haven't. I've thought of it, but I've never thought of it that the connection between the two of us. You're right, because we are literally dropped in.
Exactly.
As opposed to like the long land foot march, we can do that too. But it's our insert methods and platforms are much different and a lot more abrupt and expeditionary, if you will.
Correct.
But I think it does train a characteristic in our specific breeds that is hopefully a little more flexible and adaptive, because we have to be.
Yeah.
And I think on a personal level, the next question is, I can't wait to hear your response to this one for your story. But for me personally, I'll just preface it by saying probably the biggest thing as I've grown up and hopefully matured and gotten smarter that's helped me learn flexibility and its importance is being a father, because I have 3 different daughters and I cannot cookie cutter respond to them because their character is much different. Their emotions are much different, even though there's similarities. And if I apply an Aria style of communication to Alessia, it actually will make her cry sometimes. Not because I'm being mean, but because that's not how she receives the way that daddy should talk to her. So it's really interesting that communication is what stands out in my mind as a leader of my home with my daughters. And Laura and I have to sort of sniff that out almost daily of like, what's the sense, what's the vibe, and how. So we have to be flexible in how we listen and communicate, because otherwise we'd be really ineffective parents. But it's that's where I've learned so much from just having little girls. And it's actually helped me, I think, more as a professional than as a man generally, because you just start learning, I can be the same me, but I can't be the same person to everybody. That doesn't work
at all.
That doesn't work. And culturally, I think that's really important. It's really important. But however you want to tell this, you gave a little bit of a hint already. What is your story if you were to just meet someone for a few minutes and wanted to give them a backdrop of you and who you are? What would you share?
What would I share? It's actually quite a difficult question, because
I know it is. It's not easy when you
no.
Take your time.
So I would say I come out of a background-wise, family-wise, I come out of a hardworking family out of the normal middle class of Germany. As I said, grown up in the eastern side of Germany before the wall came down,
Right.
with a very different environment, with a very different culture and how things are done. And then changing in the early 90s to the open up Western world and the reunification of Germany. That was a very impressive thing, because I have some memories on the time before. It's not that we have been harassed or had a bad time in the old GDR. Not at all. But it was just so different. So it still has effects cultural in Germany. You can feel even that this was happening a lot of years ago. So it's still feelable. So still in the minds of the people, specifically my generation and elder.
Right.
And and then after childhood and the approach to sports, to music, my first time on a rock concert, which paved the way into that things. And then my general interest to join the military, which came up pretty easy or pretty early. I would say with 15, 16, I was about, it could be a way of, which I found out, and a path to follow for the future.
Yeah.
And then throughout my time, once I started in the military, I met so many different people in so many different locations, because I was always keen to travel, and I traveled almost the world. Not all countries, but a lot of. I saw a lot of regions, a lot of different places, and I met a lot of interesting people in my life, which influenced me more or less. So my wife would say, you always are hanging around with a very special breed of people.
Oh, Julia, what do you mean?
And when you meet her next time, just ask her about some of my friends and old colleagues. What type of special breed they are.
I can't wait to hear.
So they're all correct. I would say in Germany we call it a Charakterkopf, so character head, if you would translate it word by word.
Yeah.
So they are very specific type of persons, and I had always a good connection to these types, and often they are still long-term friends out of the military, but also in the civilian world. So, and throughout my military service, I was influenced by a lot of good military leaders, which made me, I would say, from my background knowledge and my job, the man I'm sitting now here. I was always lucky, not always, most of the time lucky with my direct commanding officers and people who took care of me.
Right.
There was always a good connection. And I was also lucky at the end that I'm, as you has been throughout our combat deployments, to stay alive, to not be injured.
Right. Don't
have a loss in your own direct line of.
We have all of our fingers and toes, and
exactly.
We can hear and talk. So many gifts.
Yeah. And we've seen that, unfortunately, the opposite of that. Both of us have seen it.
Right.
And therefore, I'm very thankful to that. And I always rely back on certain moments where it was a little bit tight.
Right.
And in parallel, when you look at my civilian life, I, from a very, I would say, outgoing, extroverted, physical, trained person, which loves to travel, which was flipping around the world in a very, I would say, not streamlined lifestyle, coming from the job, but also from my private choices. Ending up meeting my now wife about a little bit over 10 years ago, and then said, okay, that is the person you would like to be engaged with. That is the person you would like to share your life with.
Right.
And becoming 47, you can see it took me a little longer to make that decision.
But mid to late 30s,
but it was actually the fully right decision, and also to wait that long and to go in that direction. And Yeah. And we keep learning from each other, by the way, all day long, because as I'm attracted to persons with a certain character, you met her. She's
an amazing woman.
Yeah.
We both married. Good. Congratulations to us. Yeah. We both chose wisely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she also pushes me and challenges me daily on things where I feel generally comfortable with. And then she questions it and and then you start questioning yourself. Is that really right what you're doing? And because, she might be, to a certain extent, she might be right that this is not the wrong way. And talking about, because you talked about your kids, is the same as educating your kids. And how do you behave certain situations,
right?
And you might think, okay, this is straightforward. You do it that in that way. That's the pragmatic approach. It has to be like that. And then she comes, maybe not. And then you rethink it because you're very strict and straightforward with your judgment on certain things and the way how to get it done. And then no. Maybe we should rethink it. Yeah. So in that, all these steps, I would say, made me the person I am, and I'm still learning. I'm still very interested. And I told my wife, even if I would stop service or working straight away right now, I would fill up my day completely for the next 10 years with all the stuff I'm interested in. I don't have enough time to do.
Yeah.
I would not be bored out by a single day.
No, you wouldn't. Well, between skydiving and kite surfing and all of the things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And things which you don't have the time for, but would love to do. And so being interested in new things and keeping an active and adaptive lifestyle has always been something I loved and hope to continue.
Yeah, cool. That's a rich story, man. And no, that's good. That's really fascinating to hear too. We've talked about it, but just hearing, meeting and hearing stories of people, whether it's from Germany or other countries that have gone through internal friction in the country and then with the falling down of the Berlin Wall and all these different things. It is really fascinating to watch, I think, big shifts in culture.
Yeah.
And then it actually does connect really nicely to flexibility because there's so much of a rigid generational mindset that can get handed down.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, like we've talked about this, but I'll say it very bluntly for the listeners as well. Like Jens and I have talked about when you think back to maybe the different world wars and then looking at now who are allies with, U.S. troops. So you look at whether it's Japan or Germany and all of whom I've personally in my lifetime served alongside, whether it's the Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force, you as like my work spouse for the past 3 years. And you look at these things and you can't evolve and grow as just humanity if you keep this really rigid mindset that can't pull out of the past.
Yeah.
So you can learn things from the past. And it's not to say you shouldn't be culturally aware, but I think being culturally humble enough to realize like there's things that need to grow and need to tune and get better and refine.
Right.
And looking at Germany now on the other side of the wall coming down.
Yeah.
And there still might be tensions, but I would just challenge people like with a really quick question for the people listening. Think about where am I at today where I just have a certain way I feel about a certain type of person. That's not a good feeling. And what will that look like in maybe 10, 15, 20 years for my children? And would I want it to look the same or would I want it to be better? And if you want it to be better, like you can help influence that. Yeah. So I think, like you said, the way you educate your children, the way you try to be flexible and really respect other people and get to know them for who they are as a person, not just because you come from this country or you look this way.
Yeah.
That's just such a foolish, ignorant way to approach people.
Yeah.
And it's the total opposite of flexible.
Yeah, exactly. And specifically living in a foreign country and being exposed to different cultures and which requires always a little bit flexibility and adaptability anyway, also opens up your mind and and engaging with a lot of people job-wise, but also in the civilian world, you learn to judge people not by the cover of a book, like the cover of the book.
Yeah.
And it's because there's much more behind, where you, from the first instant, would look at the person and say, maybe that's not the kind of person I would like to talk to.
Right.
And then you start really talking to them, and then it's, oh, wow. Okay.
Right.
So that is something I've learned throughout my life. So this is something that a classical lessons identified and learned. Be open-minded, even though that you might think from a first impression, this is not the person I would like to share something with or to spend my time with. So,
because there's so many cultural things that we just don't know.
Correct.
Even stepping into Norway or being in, like, we've been a lot of places. I've been a lot of countries as well. And the cultural preferences of that type of person or where they come from. I think a lot of times when you're quick to judge other people, it just highlights your own ignorance.
Correct.
Because you don't even know where they're coming from. And there's probably a very good reason for the way that generally their group of people handles it a certain way.
Yeah.
So like trying to be curious on that, I think helps you remain flexible.
Yeah.
But we're going to jump into that comment about going all over in a minute because you have been a lot of places. But before that, so the next few questions are from listeners. So this next one, maybe it's related to flexibility, but it's just we're open to whatever question. So here you go. So what was the most challenging part of your recent cross-country ski marathon in Svalbard? So for the listeners that are Norwegian, or maybe people who've been there, you know what Svalbard is. It's a fantastic place, but paint the picture of what this place is and what you just did, and then what was the most challenging part. So give a little story on that.
I think if you watch Star Wars and the Ice Planet, which was actually filmed here in Norway, in Finse.
It was.
It was. So
that's right.
Actually, if you take this picture and put it on an island, that's Svalbard. So because there's no trees, it's winter, and
it's up there.
It's way up north. So way up north.
The high north. Yeah.
And in April, where the event was late April, it's daylight already almost 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go out at night, it's going to be light, and it's minus 15 degrees. It's a huge amount of snow, and it's just a few people live there.
Right.
Outside the perimeters of the main town, Longyearbyen, you have to wear a gun for self-defense.
Hungry polar bears?
For hungry polar bears.
Yeah.
Or hire a guide who is able to do that.
Right.
And I think the amount of sled dogs is the same amount as people on the island.
Yeah.
And it is, I would say, the most lonely place I know when I've been to, where you really can escape people. And about 8 years ago in summertime, I spent 3 weeks with my wife there in summer, and we hiked and kayaked in and around the island and made a wonderful experience. And it was a great moment to come back and to see it in winter times. And to join the race. But to answer the question, what was the most challenging part is to manage your personal strength and your personal goals, what you set yourself, how quick I am through the marathon distance, with actually the ability to perform. So not to start too fast, what kind of pace you go through,
right?
How exhausted will you be at the end, and looking at the sheer profile of the tracks. So with some really steep or steeper climbs you had to do throughout the visit, you always were thinking, okay, do you have enough energy left for the final sprint?
Right.
And will you make it under my personal goal of 4 hours at the end, which was quite tight, but I made it.
Good job.
And thank you.
Yeah.
And in combination with that, also enjoying the opportunity just to be there, to being exposed to that kind of a totally different world.
An often overlooked part of when you sign up to do an event like that.
Yeah.
It's just enjoying it.
Yeah. It has to be at the end, because it's not, I'm not a professional athlete. I'm interested in sports,
right?
But it's not about times or something like that. It's just to accomplish it and make it happen, but also enjoying the scenery. And the good thing was that we came there 2 days prior. So we also had the opportunity to do a dog sled ride, to go into an ice cave.
Yeah.
So not only being exposed to just the race, but also learn a little bit about cultural life and in winter up there. Yeah.
There you go. So there's your answer. That was the most challenging part.
Long answer.
Manager. It's good. It's a good story. Manage your expectations and have fun. There you go. So you started dipping your toe a little bit in this, but the next question was, what do you feel are the biggest challenges as you've moved yourself and your family to a new country and culture? And how has flexibility served you well on that type of journey?
Yeah. So I would say biggest challenges is that even though that it is a European country and we traveled to Norway quite a few times before, is actually start living in that country with all the circumstances you don't know, with the good and the bad stuff when it comes to bureaucracy, organizational requirements, when you just enter the country, and also the first status. For all you might not know, Norway has two different kind of social identification numbers. Right. One is actually dedicated for refugees, and one is the real social identification number the Norwegians have. Right. And we were, in the first years, we were just handed out the one for the refugees, even though that we have a different role, but that was a setup. But it made life sometimes really complicated because you could not see the medical files of your kids. Right. You were not obliged to, beside a certain bank, to open up a bank account or to sign up for a telephone contract. Or something.
And our spouses couldn't. So they couldn't have their own ID, right? So they almost couldn't be their own person without us. Yeah.
Correct. And that was specifically also for Julia, who always was a very independent, thinking, working woman. Very complicated, that she was almost 100% relying on my status here.
Same for Laura
in country.
It almost drove her crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like she did it well, but it was very frustrating.
Yeah, and so it took a while to adapt to that different situation. But the good thing was the payback side of the house and the adapting to the local circumstances. Having the opportunity to talk and meet nice people, which we now call friends, made things interesting, and also to be flexible enough to adapt to a different way of doing business. So be flexible enough to expect or to accept that you can't go into a workshop to get up your car after 1600 because every workshop will be closed. Don't expect to buy beer on a Sunday in some of the grocery stores because, first of all, it's closed, or you can't buy beer on the weekends after certain working hours, which is different for a German.
Right. But it's so funny that you highlight that, because I think the things that might be initially frustrating, I'll say to Americans, I think Laura and I handled it fine, and we just appreciated it for what it was, and we have fantastic neighbors, fantastic community. People like you and Julia were helpful to teach us some things as well, and other colleagues. But the things that when you first move here, people might go like, I don't like this because it's different. Yeah. When you actually understand why, and you actually adapt it and embrace it a little bit, it actually becomes one of my favorite things about the culture now, because things shutting down a little bit earlier, children getting off of school a little bit earlier. The reason is that Norway is very big about letting you spend time with family. So the days they will allow a child to miss school, we were just talking about this with Laura upstairs before we started recording. Yeah. On top of like the holiday that they tell you, like for the preschools, they tell you have to take a couple weeks off and tell us in a row and tell us when your child is going to be doing that. So they aren't allowed here. Yeah. And then you're allowed another 10 days without question. That's uncommon, the amount of family life that they try to pour into. Yeah. And then things that aren't open on Sunday and a lot of things closed down. It's like, well, it's actually a good rest day, so why not?
Yeah.
So
and
when
also the workers in these types of business areas would like to have a day off.
A day, and so when you appreciate that it's to give you time to rest and reset.
Yeah.
The thing that a lot of people are like, I don't get this luxury. That's a first world problem. Come on.
Very first world.
Very, very much so. But also when you appreciate the intent behind it in that culture, you can actually see it for being, that's actually really good.
Yeah.
And you sort of adapt it and take it on and enjoy it. So now it forces us to be a little bit calmer, not be so rushed to do things, spend time with family, get more time in the afternoon and evening to have dinner together. Where maybe in a U.S. culture, that's not as fortunate. No. And people are always going, and it never ends.
A good example on that, I was, when I lived in Germany, I was commuting for many years between North and Central Germany. Mm-hmm. And it was always in a rush. It was always Friday. It was always the highway, the Autobahn was full and packed. You were always with a knife between your teeth and just looking at the watch. Right. Now you come here, okay, the whole country is 80 to 90 kilometers per hour, and the majority of the roads, you can't, on many of those smaller roads, you can't even drive 80 kilometers per hour because it's too narrow or too winded or whatever. And you adapt to it. And so you are way more relaxed than you're them. You have to calculate a little bit more time to go from one place to another, but you adapt to it. And now when I'm coming back to Germany and have to drive on the Autobahn, I said, what the heck is going on here? So it's always that moment, oh my goodness, that was really something different. So,
well, the first and only time that I've been back to the US since we moved here 3 years ago was when you and I went to Norfolk for that work trip. And I remember it was a little bit of a culture shock going back to my culture. I was like, I don't know if I like this so much. I want to
driving from DC down to Norfolk.
Let's fly back to Sula. I need Stavanger again. We need to calm down. So So what advice would you give specifically to younger people, like young men and young women? Let's just say like our future leaders of the next generation, if they struggle to be flexible. Because like you said, it's the younger you are, before you experience and are exposed, it's difficult to let go of being so rigid and to actually learn to be flexible and adapt. So what's some good advice you might give them if they really struggle to be flexible when life changes suddenly or things hit them they're not used to? What's some advice you could look back on?
So the first advice I would say, talk to people you trust and share your opinion on certain things and wait for a response on it. And you might get a different perspective. You might get a different answer. You might see a second or third way of handling a certain situation, which you personally were not able actually to see because you are so focused and you're stovepiped in your thinking that you're actually not able to flexible adapt to a certain situation or things like that. And talking to other people helps you to overcome this situation. And when it comes to leadership, not only talk to your commanding officers, also talk to your subordinates, talk to your NCOs, take their advice also. You don't lose credibility, you gain credibility if you approach them right. And you show them that their opinion, and even if it's different, is worth and taking into consideration when you handle certain situations. That is something which helped me a lot when I was, okay, we do it that way and it's that way. And by the way, it's that way. And then you learn about to adapt to them. So get in contact with other people and share and take advice into considerations. That is something I would always advise on to overcome this situation. And the next thing is expose yourself to as many uncertain, uncomfortable situations as you can, because by doing so, you learn yourself. If you step out of your own comfort zone, you immediately learn that you have to be flexible and adaptable. And that is going for private life, physical training, traveling to countries you've never been to, where you don't speak the language and things like that, where it's a different culture. And the same is for the military life. Join different courses you've been not exposed to. Talk to people which have a fully different background and a different perception on certain things. So step out of your own private comfort zone that would be the second big tip, which helped me to gain flexibility, because then you see, okay, they do it differently, and it still works.
Yeah.
It might be not 100%, or it might be you might approach it differently, but actually it works. So,
right. Yeah. That it made me think of something. This isn't a scientific fact. I have no idea if this is true, but this is just the way that it hit me. So I'll just say it this way. And if people argue with me, I don't care. That's fine. But in my mind, hearing you say that, it made me think of, I think, just thinking back on my own personal stories and my own teams and units and groups that I've grown up with, whether that be even like rugby teams or whatever. You just look at any setting that you're in as a group of people. I think if you're flexible and you model flexibility as an individual, you're still trying to accomplish the same goal or mission or purpose, that's fine. But if you can flex to maybe promote someone else's interest over your own, to me, it does two things. It's probably one of the quickest ways to build trust with other people.
Yeah.
Because if I feel like, which I do, that's why I think we trust each other. Well, if I feel like, man, Jens will he'll want to get the mission done. We need to do our job. But Jens will actually put the interests of me or the team above his own. And if he realizes that it's a competition between me and him, but both of them accomplish the goal, Jens will probably just put other people first. So the humility to be flexible is probably the quickest way to get trust within a team like that. So you have to, it's really, and it serves you well, because then it also, I think, it empowers other people.
Yes.
Because they go like, oh, my opinion and my perspective matters.
Correct.
So you get bold people who are willing to share, and it can't be all the time, do what you want. No. But when you have a good balance, they can respect when you make a hard decision and when you say it will be this way this time, because I must make a snap choice and this is how we're doing it. Yeah. They're much quicker to stand in line with your decision and to support you. Yeah. Because their experience goes, oh, well, when you have the opportunity, you always flex. Correct. And you always promote other people. So I think it's okay we do it. So it's a little bit of maybe the golden rule, or whatever you'd want to say, treating others how you would want to be treated. But I think flexibility and trust are so hand in hand.
Yeah, and it's a balancing act between when it comes to leadership skills, because that was the question was pointed to. That is between what is the time and place where you really have to be strict, and it's you are the responsible person, you are the leader, you take the decision, and it has to be that way, because out of experience or circumstances, this is the only way to solve it. And specifically when decisions has to be made quickly. Right. And then it's about, okay, you can't ask 20 people what is their opinion on it. Right. Which you should do if you have a longer time available and a process which doesn't require an immediate decision or so. Right. Then always trust it, be flexible, even though that you have a first-hand perception on how it could be done. Be flexible till the end and wait for influences that might come up during that period. And we all seen that people which often also in commanding functions that have a very straightforward perception on things, and it's very hard to even with good argumentations to divert them a little bit from their own way of doing business. So, which I would call a little bit more stubborn than.
But I also think the more that you can step out from behind a computer screen or whatever traps you at work and get a coffee, get to know people, get to understand the way they think, the more you spend time with people. I'd say in 3 years working together, of course, we don't know everything about each other, but we could probably relatively accurately guess. If Josh was presented this, Jens would go, Josh would probably do this. Yeah. And vice versa. Yeah. If I was like, if Jens was presented with this option, Jens would probably choose this. Yeah. So the more time you actually get to know the people you work with or live with, you actually can immediately think of what would their position be on this. So if you need to make a quick decision, you almost as a leader start developing your own decision-making with a wider scope that appreciates your team. Yeah. Because you immediately hear their voices and you take them into consideration. So it becomes almost second nature to consider the team. Yeah. So you have to know people.
Exactly.
And then they will appreciate like, ooh, he made that decision probably thinking of me. Or like our colleague Stephanie might be like, ooh, he made a decision appreciating maybe a maritime perspective or a female perspective or whatever is different than us.
Yeah.
We considered it. And I think that's flexible as a leader. Yeah.
And even though that you are not 100% convinced that the other opinions and parts that have to be taken into consideration when forming up a decision, you know that you still should do it because from experience you might say, okay, you have to take this in consideration because of this and this person group is. For them, it's very important. And if you showcase that you keep their thoughts mindfully integrated in your decision and also communicating this, you can avoid a lot of discussions beforehand. And you also show that you are flexible and adaptable enough to adapt to their way of thinking and doing business, even though that it's not 100% your own perception.
Right.
But you have to, the more complex the whole situation is, the more things you have to consider when you take a decision.
Yeah. And I think reminding yourself of, much like you defined it at the beginning, flexibility is really needed most when there's a lot of unexpected pressure or change or things you didn't forecast were going to happen. Yeah. So you don't really, it's good to be flexible as a general virtue and character trait, but it's really demanded that you be flexible when something presents itself that you didn't anticipate and the way you were going to do it, maybe it won't work at all.
Yeah.
So then, but I think even when you aren't confronted with strong and difficult situations, you can build flexibility into your team as a leader by modeling how to be flexible so that they start to understand this is your character. Right. So then when you really need it, again, they can trust you'll be that way.
Yeah.
Because it's not like concrete magically cuts expansion joints before the freeze thaw. It's always flexible. Yeah. It's always ready to be that. And I think that's just the way I think of it. Like you don't randomly cut in and a bridge doesn't randomly create itself an ability to flex.
Yeah.
It's created and designed that way. You know, it's part of its character. So I think it's really almost demanded as a leader that you always have that flexible demeanor and that you always model that for your team.
Yeah.
Because then they can trust it. Okay, you're going to be this way. Yeah.
And you have to showcase this to your subordinates and to others, because then, as I said, they come back and say, okay, he shows flexibility, so we might have to do and act the same in certain ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So last question as we wrap this up. If you were to walk away from this conversation on flexibility and you're like, oh, I wish Josh or someone would have asked me this. Or if it's not a question, if it's just like a final thought on this topic that you would really want to drive home with people, what would that question or that idea be? And like, how would you respond to it? Or what would you want to leave with everyone?
That's really a difficult question. I think I would say what is the level of flexibility you would like to show compared to the level of flexibility, if you assess yourself and your behavior, you're actually showing.
Ooh. The Josh version of that question would be like, how flexible does Josh say that Josh is? And how flexible does Laura say that Josh is? Maybe that's a good...
That is exactly the way. That's the native speaker.
Or how flexible does Julia say that Jens is, as opposed to Jens?
Exactly. And there's definitely different, and that this changes, or this changes every day and from situation to situation. And I can be really stubborn, and I just kind of transferred some of this stubbornness of my own to my sons. So
it will happen.
So it will happen, but still, you learn out of your own life.
And now you get to live with yourself.
Exactly. So, and at the end, it's exactly that you really have to think about, okay, am I just portraying that I'm flexible, or am I really flexible in that situation? Right. So, and sometimes I'm still not. So, and I can't get over it in certain situation. And thinking then backwards is, okay, you always talked about being flexible and adaptive. And so are you really in any? No, you're not. Because we're all humans. And because of situation changes, you are not always 100% agreeing to certain things, or you're just too tired, too annoyed, to whatever, to actually showcasing this. But over the years, if you try to remember the things to talk and adhere to other people, get other opinions into your own decisions and considerations, and expose yourself to situations you are not 100% comfortable with, that teaches you to be flexible.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we close this out, I do this every time, and I'm sure that Jens could probably say the same for his family, but all of these episodes, thank you so much for joining, first of all. Thanks. I'll hand it over to you for a last word if you wish, but for all of you listening, this is always done, sure, for future growth and for things to look back on, but it's really just something to leave for my wife and my daughters, because it's something practical. We talked a little bit today with Bjorn and Eric about it. Like, in theories or stuff that I research or study, it's one thing to talk about things a lot. Yeah. And even though this is a conversation, this is my way to practically try to leave some of my ideas behind for my children, that maybe one day they could go like, ooh, what does dad think? Or, dad and, Uncle Jens think of flexibility. It's an opportunity to take technology, the things we've been gifted with, to try and leave something and pay it forward to the future leaders, like our daughters or your son will be. So for Aria, Alessia, Karina, and of course, Laura, I love you so much. And this is for you. But it's always a privilege to share time with good friends, good colleagues, good people that you know, that your daddy knows, to talk about things that matter. And a man that comes with an incredible story. We haven't even scratched the surface of some of the conversations we've had over the past 3 years of from laughter to like sitting over a whiskey or a beer with tears in our eyes, thinking of colleagues that we've lost in combat and those situations. So there's a lot of emotion and heart packed into this, but it's also just two men who really care about people around them. And I respect you, and I wouldn't have you over my home with my daughters if I didn't, but it's such a joy to sit down with you. So thank you for that. And we're so glad you joined us. Put over to you for the last word.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the great opportunity. Try and continue watching Josh's incredible podcast, and with all the interesting persons he interviewed and had a chat with before me. And listened into a lot of these conversations. So hopefully this continues, and all the best also with the foundational coaching approach, which he brings alive in his daily work. And therefore, thank you very much, and all the best, and stay flexible.
And if you ever fly into Stavanger, there is a big poster. If you ever come, you will see a poster from NATO with this man's good hair and nice smile. So if you don't meet Jens, you can physically see him. He is in the Sula airport with as long as they leave it up, his bright smiling face welcoming you to Stavanger. So come visit us. You can see him on a poster and meet him in person. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend.
As well.
Cheers.
Enjoy. Cheers.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Off the Hinges. Don't forget to follow Foundational Coaching on your favorite social media platforms. Kick off your Saturday with me tomorrow morning at Coffee and Reflections on Substack, where I'll share my reflections and stories on the weekly virtue. I'm honored to be a part of your story today, and I'm proud of your growth, my friend. I can't wait for our next time together, exploring the vault.